Alligator Alcatraz is the latest in a series of developments taking Trump's mass deportation campaign to new extremes. BT went to South Florida to hear directly from Floridians who say that ICE's new bizarre detention center is built for brutality, based on lies and good old-fashioned corruption.
And it's a great honor to be deep in Florida, the Florida Everglades, to open America's newest migrant detention center. It's incredibly built.
The place started flooding. There's no actual infrastructure there. It's just an airstrip. So there's no running water. There's no plumbing.
Because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon.
Paint that picture that it's a vast wasteland. I'm out here. The Miccosukee people, the Seminole people are out here.
It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate.
The alligators and the pythons will not be security guards. They are absolutely terrified of people.
But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet.
Llegamos a este país con deseo solicitar asilo.
And people want the problem solved. And the only way we're going to solve it is if states like Florida step up and help the president, help Secretary Noem get the job done.
I don't think any human should be taken here. And fans, hurricane season is coming. It's horrible.
It's 6 a.m. in the morning. My colleague and I are on our way to a small airfield in the Everglades, where Alligator Alcatraz opened only days after it was announced. It's already scorching hot, and when we open the car door, we are unprepared. The mosquitoes are relentless.
No. Let's fucking go.
It's hard to imagine anyone staying out here and surviving without deep knowledge and tools to do so. For centuries, it has been the home of the Miccosukee and Seminole tribes and preserved only as a result of massive struggle.
You've got Skunk Ape headquarters and Trail Lakes. You've got Nathaniel Reed campgrounds right there. Right. I know Mad Bear Osceola has put out about his house being very close by. The Everglades is a sacred place. You know, the Everglades, this location in the 1970s, the reason that runway is there was because they wanted to build the world's largest airport. And that was stopped, which is why we have one runway. And as a result of that, our country's first national preserve was formed, Big Cypress. Also, President Nixon realized the need for an EPA, an Environmental Protection Agency. Another little thing you might have heard of, Earth Day, was started also as a result of the fight that was fought at this exact site. So for us, this is like, it's insulting. Nobody thought this would have to happen again. So I think, this is a pattern of behavior for our governor, where he is very disconnected from the people, his constituents, his taxpayers.
Could you speak to that a little
No.
bit? Why you're holding the sign?
No, Floridians don't want this at all. No. I am very pro-immigrant, and I have an immigrant friend that I'm helping. I would be devastated if he were picked up and put in here. He's an asylum seeker, a delightful person, and doesn't belong here.
The conditions in South Florida, for those of you who have not been here in the summer, are horrific. We have mosquitoes, we have alligators. I don't know where they're going to put the waste. I don't know how you put that many people in a swamp.
The first mentions of Alligator Alcatraz came just days before it opened from Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer and set the tone for the disturbing rhetoric about the facility.
Attorney General James Othmeyer here at the Miami-Dade Collier Training Facility. This is an old, virtually abandoned airport facility right in the middle of the Everglades. Florida's been leading on immigration enforcement, supporting the Trump administration and ICE's efforts to detain and deport criminal aliens. The governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one. As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz. This 30 square mile area is completely surrounded by the Everglades. Presents a efficient, low-cost opportunity to build a temporary detention facility because you don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. If people get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
I think just like everyone else, I thought it was a bad joke. When I saw it, I'm like, are you kidding me? When I watched the promo, it was like a poorly made promo. And then I started feeling offended, especially when he made comments like the Everglades wanted to paint that picture that it's a vast wasteland and like there's nobody out there except alligators and python. I'm like, hey, what about me? I'm out here. The Miccosukee people, the Seminole people are out here, and everyone else who comes out here to enjoy this landscape. So it was like all those emotions were going through my head, but something in my gut told me this is not a joke. Because a lot of people, I think when I started making phone calls, everyone had similar reactions.
So how did Alligator Alcatraz go so quickly from a political stunt on X to an operational detention center that will cost $500 million a year to run? I talked with immigrant rights organizer and journalist Tomas Kennedy, who says that the whole process is robbing working-class Floridians.
A couple of weeks ago, I believe June 24th, if I'm correct, Attorney General James Uthmeier, who was appointed there to that position by Governor DeSantis, basically announced that they were going to commandeer the land, seize it from the county of Miami-Dade, and establish this detention camp for immigrants. Originally, $20 million of FEMA money from, I believe, their emergency shelter division was going to use for this. Miami-Dade County countered, saying no, because the land is priceless. The state of Florida basically said, okay, well, just take it then. And they used an emergency proclamation that was issued in January 2023 under the auspices of the Biden border crisis, right, which wasn't a border crisis at all, in my opinion. This emergency order is wildly out of date and out of the current context, right? Regardless, you know, he did what authoritarians have done throughout history, which is swat away administrative obstacles through ruling by decree, and they seized the land from Miami-Dade, and in 1 week, they built this makeshift detention camp, concentration camp, in the middle of the Everglades. It is just completely lawless. It is just a complete corrupt cash grab. That center is gonna cost $450 million a year to run. And initially the state of Florida said, hey, don't worry, we're gonna get federal money, FEMA money. FEMA money, by the way, during hurricane season here in Florida. Don't worry, we're gonna get reimbursed for this. Today, the federal government says, actually, no, we're not gonna reimburse you, and the state of Florida is left holding the bag. We're doling out this millions of dollars of no-bid contracts for these companies managing this detention center, and we're projected to be in a $2.8 billion deficit next year in the state of Florida. Another thing I'll mention is, I took some pictures of this. It is full of contractors in there. It is a huge contractor cash grab. One politically connected contractor got a $20 million no-bid contract, and that's one contractor. And out there, if you go out there, they are, and I took a picture of this, they are putting tape over their logos and their USDOT number for their vehicles, which they're not supposed to do under the law, right?
While the White House now says Alligator Alcatraz is a state project, during the same week, it signed into law a budget for ICE that will surpass the funding for most armies around the globe. The budgets for life-saving services are being drastically cut, and for Floridians, in one of the most dangerous times of the year. I talked with St. Petersburg, Florida City Councilor Richie Floyd about unmet needs of residents who in some cases are still recovering from last year's devastating hurricanes.
Things have been difficult in St. Petersburg recently for working class people and honestly for everyone. After Hurricane Helene came in and flooded thousands of homes, we immediately, 2 weeks later, were hit by Hurricane Milton that flooded hundreds of homes and knocked down countless trees and did significant amount of damage, not just to people's homes, but to municipal facilities, and really showed that we were in a bad place when it came to our infrastructure and being prepared for what the future is going to bring. There are people's homes who haven't been rebuilt when grants from disaster relief agencies are being cut towards cities and towards our county. We've lost money on stormwater infrastructure that was promised to us. And so to see $500 million of disaster relief money get spent on a prison, something being built in an instant to funnel immigrants into, to disappear people illegally into, it's really depressing and really disturbing as well, and not a sign of how healthy our society is right now.
Trump's mass deportation campaign is built on the narrative that immigrants pose violent threats to communities, often focusing on a few cases of serious crime. DeSantis and Trump say that Alligator Alcatraz is for the worst criminals imaginable. But the fastest growing population in ICE detention centers is immigrants without a criminal history. Just this week, Florida lawmakers confirmed this in the case of the Everglades detention facility.
We came here today to find out more about what the process is when immigrants are brought to the Orange County Jail who have ICE detainer holds. We know as of this morning, about 47 detainees are here simply because they have ICE holds. They've not committed any crimes and they're not facing any criminal charges. The vast majority of those actually are Latinos who are construction workers and who were detained and apprehended during a traffic stop, not when they were committing any crimes, because they've not committed any crimes. And we were also able to unequivocally confirm that several detainees who have not committed any crimes were transferred from the Orange County Jail already to ICE, where they were then brought to Alligator Alcatraz. That proves that the claim that only the worst of the worst are being brought to Alligator Alcatraz is a lie.
So while the mass deportation campaign says it's only going after the worst of the worst, that's a complete lie, according to the family of Frango Reyes, a Venezuelan man who was deported to the notorious CCOT prison in El Salvador. In their South Florida home, his wife says she worries every day about his conditions.
Llegamos a este país con deseo solicitar asilo, solicitamos asilo como tal, no estábamos irregular. Mi esposo le tocó este año y por lo tanto mi esposo fue, o sea, normalmente como cualquier persona, llevó todos sus documentos en regla, sus papeles, todo. Bueno, yo fui con él. Él le tocó a las 8 de la mañana. Cuando él sale, no, mentira, no salió. El que salió fue el oficial William, me acuerdo que el nombre se llama William. Y él me dijo que mi esposo quedaba detenido. O sea, me quedé en shock, pregunté que el por qué. Y lo único que me comentó fue que supuestamente un protocolo, más nada, no me dijo otra cosa de decir un protocolo, pero decía de por qué, si él llevaba todo en regla, no tenía delito. Nunca me dijo lo que lo estaban, en que lo estaban criminando como tal, que era del tren de Aragua, que eso me enteré más adelante. Y él me dijo, yo le digo, no, es que mi esposo no tiene, o sea, no tiene récord de nada. O sea, yo estoy 100%, imagínate, mi esposo está de los 18 años conmigo, tenemos ya 7 años. A él le dieron unas pruebas donde supuestamente, entre comillas, estaban mostrando que mi esposa era del tren de Aragua. El abogado me las da, yo las agarré y todas las cuestiones como tal me dice que era una, disculpe la palabra, era una estupidez, porque lo único que decía posiblemente eran del tren de Aragua. Hasta ahí. No decía más nada. Como eso estaba en inglés y por lo tanto no se habla inglés, entonces nunca supe lo que decían las pruebas. Bueno, a mi esposo, él me llama ya el viernes en la noche, me estaba llamando, ya me dice, amor, me van a deportar, que esto. Yo le digo, no, amor, no te pueden deportar. No, sí, mi amor, me puede. El sábado me llamó casi hasta las 9, que fue el día que supuestamente lo iban a mandar para Venezuela. A él le dijeron que lo iban a mandar para Venezuela, mas no le dijeron que lo iban a mandar para El Salvador. Ya el 9 no supe más nada, él se despidió, mi amor, nos vemos cuando llegue a Venezuela, yo te llamo. Cuando de repente el domingo en la mañana me llama mi cuñada y me dice, Ligi, ¿estás mirando los aviones que llegaron a El Salvador? Chacho, eso fue como que me cayó un tubo de agua. Hace poco salieron un video donde mi hijo me dice, mami, ese es mi papá. Ese es mi papá, y fue como donde lo pudimos, donde él decía libertad, él pedía sus manos de auxilio. Se la está pasando feamente. Y te lo digo que como es un buen esposo, es un buen padre.
Frango Reyes' story is becoming all too common. Immigrants with no prior criminal history are being torn from their families and shipped to places like CCOT in El Salvador, where human rights violations are widely alleged. Now, many fear the same at Alligator Alcatraz. What the detention center will really be like inside is shrouded in secrecy. While right-wing influencers were allowed to roam the halls for puff pieces, Florida lawmakers were prevented from accessing the facility in their official capacity.
Yeah, so, I was out there today. People have been out there, obviously, for the past few days, couple of weeks. I can tell, I was there with some state lawmakers who attempted to inspect the site today, because under Florida law, state lawmakers can visit, inspect, unannounced, state-run detention facilities, right? They were denied access repeatedly and turned away, right? So I say that, A, so people know, but also we don't know exactly what's going on in there. I mean, yesterday was sort of like the grand opening. They had this ridiculous and gross press conference with Trump, DeSantis, Attorney General Uthmeier, other, Florida admin officials. It started flooding, and there's videos of that. The place started flooding. There's no actual infrastructure there. It's just an airstrip.
Since I recorded this interview with Tomas, the first messages from detainees in the facility have been released.
I am Leamsi La Figura. We've been here at Alcatraz since Friday. There's over 400 people here. There's no water to take a bath. It's been 4 days since I've taken a bath.
La Figura goes on to talk about what he says are the horrific living conditions inside the facility.
They only brought a meal once a day and it had maggots. They never take off the lights for 24 hours. The mosquitoes are as big as elephants.
During the call, La Figura passes the phone to other detainees who describe their experience.
They're not respecting our human rights. We're human beings, we're not dogs.
We're in the middle of hurricane season. Sometimes hurricanes form in the Atlantic and we have 2 weeks to prepare here and evacuate, and sometimes they have formed, I've lived here my whole life, sometimes they form off the coast of Cuba or Bahamas and we have 2 to 3 days to evacuate, right? So to think that they can evacuate the 3,000 to 5,000 people that are supposed to be held there is absurd, dangerous, and irresponsible. There's also really concerning news today. The Miami Herald reported that a 35-page planning document contains language saying that they are ready to receive children, minors, and pregnant women in there. Disturbing, right? I mean, disturbing. So we're really concerned, and it's really, really concerning to us that nobody can actually get in there to see what's happening.
The lack of transparency about Alligator Alcatraz extends to the environmental impact. The construction of the detention center took place in only 8 days. I watched countless trucks coming in and out on the usually tranquil 2-lane road that cuts through the heart of Florida's wetlands. This traffic alone cast doubts on one of the DeSantis administration's claims that the site won't impact the local environment, one of the most pristine wildlife corridors in the world, and home to the Biscayne Aquifer, the source of drinking water for 1 in 3 Floridians.
These ecosystems serve as an aquifer recharge and provides water for over 9 million people in Southwest Florida, and it recharges the Biscayne Aquifer. These lands serve as natural filters that cleans the water, and it's the water that runs out in our beaches. And when this ecosystem does what it needs to do, we don't have red tides and algae blooms because they're cleaning our waters. They also serve as flood control. It protects them from flooding. And it's also an ecosystem that is the habitat for endangered species like the iconic Florida panther. So this is a bad idea, and it's an irrational project because, like I said before, after all the money that we have invested at all levels of governments, all the work that has been done for more than 5 decades, now we want to build this detention center here without answering basic questions like how are they going to manage the waste? How many people are going to be here? Are they secure? This is an isolated place where it's hot, humid. Are they getting the basic medical service they need? How is that happening? Is these people guarantee of human rights and being treated with dignity?
And the environmental impact is manifold, right? We are in this part of extremely sensitive habitat for many endangered species in the heart of the Everglades, right between Everglades and Big Cypress National Park. The biggest killer of panthers is being struck by vehicles. We put a 5,000 person prison in this site with people being carted in at all times. It is going to put a lot more cars on the road. It's going to kill a lot of wildlife just directly through the operation of this thing. But then you think putting 5,000 human beings in the middle of the Everglades is just untenable for the water. It will produce waste. It'll produce light pollution. It'll produce sonic pollution. It's hard to even list it all. It's just the most absurd idea imaginable. And then you have to consider the fact that once they build this thing, they build the infrastructure and set the precedent for their 5,000 person prison, it's not going away. Once these things are built, they're built. And once the precedent's set, it's set. And this is due to be a blight on the landscape that we have to destroy eventually.
I would be against this even if it was 5,000 scientists that said they were going to be saving the Everglades that were staying in there, because the Everglades can't handle that. I would be against it even if it was 5,000 cute puppy dogs, and I love cute puppy dogs. The Everglades can't handle this. They are driving water and food 50 miles away into here and driving poop and pee 50 miles out. That's why it's costing the state $1.2 million a day to run this facility, all because the name Alligator Alcatraz sounds cool. This is not a scary place. The alligators and the pythons will not be security guards. They are absolutely terrified of people.
Alligator Alcatraz, we say no! Alligator Alcatraz, we say no!
For centuries, politicians and corporations have tried to tame and exploit the Everglades. But it's not built for sadistic experiments, no matter how much Trump and DeSantis pretend otherwise. While they're riding high for the moment, the people of the area say that politicians come and go, and so do their pet projects. But century after century, the Everglades remain, and it's only a matter of time before Alligator Alcatraz itself gets swallowed up.